Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening to today's podcast. Now, I'm recording this episode at 2:15 in the morning on Wednesday, September 10th. So it's definitely an unusual time, but I just finished uh recording my other podcast, Fantasy Football Fever, and I'm doing a day away today. I'm going to Philadelphia for the Mets Phillies game tonight at Citizens Bank Park. I will be down there. And then the idea is that I'll be headed straight back to New York after the game tonight, and then as soon as I get back home, I'll record the Week 2 NFL Picks podcast right after that. So, things on the docket for today. Obviously, some of the big takeaways from Week 1 in the NFL. I'll throw in some baseball. I'll sprinkle in a little tennis, the U.S. Open, a little bit as well. But I'll give you some of my takes from what transpired over the weekend in the NFL. Now, I do want to briefly touch on all the games that I emphasized a lot in the preview show on last Thursday when I recorded. So, and obviously, I have to begin with the Ravens and the Bills because that was one of the most outrageous come from behind victories I have ever seen. The Buffalo Bills were down 40-25 with 6 minutes left in the ball game, and my thought was the game was over. Baltimore is going to run the clock out. They'll keep running the ball down their throats, and the game is over. And let's just say that did not turn out that way. Josh Allen, who was coming and proving to the league why he was named the league MVP last year, despite not being named first team All Pro at the quarterback position. And he had one of the most magnificent quarters of his entire NFL career. In the fourth quarter, he threw for 251 yards passing and three touchdown drives to before the game winning drive at the end. And what Josh Allen was able to pull off might have been the most consequential comeback of the entire season because it was a 41-40 final after they were down 15 points. And teams that were up 15 plus points with what was it, 4 minutes left in the game, in a ball game, were 277 and 0. um with that. Now it's 277 and 1 with the Ravens stunningly losing at home losing to the Bills the way they did. And Josh Allen is simply unbelievable. And we talked at length about the Lamar Allen discussion and why I put those two ahead of Joe Burrow and for the time being Patrick Mahomes as well when it comes to the hierarchy of quarterbacks. Those two kept battling it out, nose to nose, punch for punch. And I thought the Ravens were completely dominated the Buffalo Bills for the first 55 minutes of that game. It wasn't there, but Buffalo scores a touchdown, and then Ed Oliver forces a Derrick Henry fumble. The Bills recover. It sets them up beautifully for they score a touchdown, but then that they missed on a 2-point conversion because they missed on other 2-point conversions earlier in the game. So this had to make up for it, and that didn't come through. So Ravens now up by 2 with a minute and a half left, and they run ultra conservative play calling, and they decided to punt on 4th and 3 at the 29-yard line, which I thought was completely absurd. What John Harbaugh did right there, I thought that was the coaching decision, and there were many bad bad jobs by the Ravens in terms of managing that game and playing not to lose, but not allowing the greatest rushing attack in NFL history a year ago to decide the game on 4th and 3. To win the game, put all the chips in, get that tiebreaker over the Bills, have the inside track to be in the 1 seed, and they punted, and Josh Allen made them pay in spectacular fashion. Wow! And look, I am of the opinion that the Bills and the Ravens are the two best teams in football, and they showed why, because you have the genius of Josh Allen, the amazing roster that Eric DeCosta has put together again in Baltimore, with Lamar, with Henry, with the line, with the defense, and I couldn't have enough of that. So maybe no, it's week 1, but that was one of the greatest week 1 games I have ever seen, and a quarterback showdown for the ages in that ball game. Now, other games I wanted to discuss: the Lions and the Packers. I picked Green Bay to win that game, but I did not expect the Packers to have the most complete team performance, offense, defense, and special teams in the entire league this weekend. And I think you look at what Matthew Golden brought to the table. You look at how the receivers are better. Jaden Reed caught a touchdown. Tucker Kraft caught a touchdown in that game. With those, and then Micah Parsons. So coming in, instant transforming what was a decent Packers defense, and turned them to a whole nother level. They made life living hell for Jared Goff and the Lions, and there's a sudden rise in believability with the organization again. With the Packers, that there were reasons why people compared the Reggie Wright situation to that of Micah Parsons today. So what an unbelievable win for the Packers. They destroyed the Lions 27-13, and the final score was not indicative of how totally one-sided that game was. Matt LaFleur is a superb head coach. He is a wonderful play caller, and the Green Bay Packers remain in great hands. Now, the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Now, I did not consider the Minnesota Vikings to be a team that I would pick to win the division until about a few days before the season started. And sure enough, I picked the Minnesota Vikings to win the division. But what the Vikings did on Monday night, go on the road to Chicago, a sudden an optimistic organization. Ben Johnson comes in, takes over. Caleb Williams in year 2 finally has an actual offensive coach to coach him up. And the Vikings down 17-6 in the fourth quarter. J.J. McCarthy in his NFL debut rattles off three consecutive touchdown drives to stamp home his place with the Vikings, and he was superb. So two passing touchdowns, and he ran one for a touchdown to effectively seal the deal in that one. And look, the Vikings roster is superb. The offensive line was great. You had Justin Jefferson. The Brian Flores' defense was running around after they made after that opening drive where they allowed the Bears to score a touchdown. So it was a game that hits home. How much the players love playing for Kevin O'Connell, how much they love playing for Brian Flores, and most especially getting around to support JJ McCarthy and the trust they have in JJ McCarthy to go out there and win games. Now, JJ McCarthy grew up about 15 miles away from Soldier Field in Chicago. Grew up a Bears fan, and then played college at Michigan, and then won his NFL debut last night. And there and it, I'm not. It's hard not to be surprised with what with this because he only lost 2 games in high school. He lost just 1 game in college. It was a game where his team scored 45 points in the Peach Bowl in the college football playoff semifinal against TCU. And now in the NFL, he just continues his winning ways. So, unbelievable job by the Minnesota Vikings going on the road in Chicago, tough place to play, and 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 defeat the Chicago Bears. So, and look, I did not pick the Bears to make the playoffs. I still think there is some development needed in Caleb Williams. And I just think there's something that's not there for Chicago that needs to be there if they want to get there and make the playoffs. So that was a huge win for the Vikings. Now they want to know, which sets up a matchup, huge game on Sunday between the Bears and the Lions in Detroit, where the loser will drop to 0-2 in a competitive NFC North. So that's a huge game coming up there. Thanks to the results of Week 1. And then the last game I talked about, the Bucks and the Falcons. That was a terrific win by the Buccaneers, and finding a way to get the victory against the Falcons. A game where I thought it was pretty even on both sides, give or take. And I knew it was gonna be a good match, but give Baker Mayfield credit. Emeka Egbuka already making his mark. That was one of my favorite picks of the first round. Drafting him from Ohio State, deepening an already deep receiving wide receiver group, and 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 you got to give Baker Mayfield credit for what he was able to pull off in the victory there. Other results of note: the Steelers and Jets game was fantastic. It was back and forth. Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, they were going at it. They were neck and neck for most of the game. They were throwing haymakers, and the Steelers wound up winning on a Chris Boswell 60-yard bomb with his legs to win the game by 2 points. So that was a tremendous victory by Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, who threw for 4 touchdowns, by the way. Aaron Rodgers now has 22 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in his last 10 games, dating back to Week 8 of last year. And I don't want to hear anybody tell me that Aaron Rodgers was the problem with the Jets last year, because he was, by my account, one of the least of the concerns with the Jets last year in a dumpster fire of a season. Other results: the Miami Dolphins got demolished by Daniel Jones at the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 33-8 on Sunday. And look, if Daniel Jones can shred a defense like that, I mean, what am I supposed to believe in? I mean, when is Christmas coming for the Miami Dolphins? And when I mean Christmas, meaning that they fire Chris Greer and they fire Mike McDaniel, because there's a realistic case to be made, right? So the Saints are bad. The Browns we expect the Browns to be bad this year. But there is a legitimate chance at some point this season where the power rankings put the Miami Dolphins team 32 of 32. I mean, that's how bad it is. Now Tyreek Hill wants out of Miami, and now he's got off the field issues as well. So that not exactly a great for in the neighborhood for that. So definitely fired up about that. That's definitely something to monitor. The Giants got spanked by the Commanders. Good game by Jaden Daniels. Bill Krosky Merritt scoring a touchdown in his NFL debut. And the Giants the Giants right now have a mess in their hands. They're deficient at linebacker. They're deficient in the interior offensive line. Javon Holland did not have a great debut for the Giants, and Shane Bowen couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag. As the defensive coordinator for the Giants. That's definitely something to look at. And look, there's the question of the quarterbacks with the Giants. And Russell Wilson, I thought he was pedestrian at best. But the problem right now with putting Jackson Dart in, and look, I love Jackson Dart. The problem is that the offensive line is a mess. And as much as I liked what the Giants did this offseason, bringing a couple of starters on the defense and drafting Abdul Carter and overhauling the quarterback room after last year, the line is still a mess. Andrew Thomas might not be ready for another few weeks because he's still dealing with the Lisfranc issue that ended his season early last year. So I don't know what to tell you. And they have a hungry Cowboys team that's coming off a heartbreaking loss, ready to pounce on the New York Football Giants coming up this Sunday. So, I just hope that the Giants can turn this around because I do think Dable is the guy that can turn Jackson Dart into a rock star, but I don't know. We don't know if they're going to survive the season based upon the commentary from John Mara at the end of last offseason. So, yikes. Now I wanted to turn our attention to Major League Baseball as there's less than 3 weeks remaining in the baseball season, and there are some delicious races shaping up across Major League Baseball. The American League East is hot and heavy because the Red Sox are at 81 wins. I did not think the Red Sox were going to be a winning team this year. You got the Yankees at 80 and 64. The Blue Jays with a comeback with a big time victory against the Astros last night. They're 3 games ahead of both the Yankees and the Red Sox in that. And I think this one's going to come down to the very end between those 3 teams. I still think that the Yankees will find a way to get over the hump, get over them, and win the division. The wild card race in the American League, I think, is intriguing. Got Seattle that's won 4 in a row. So that's a game and a half ahead of Texas, 2.5 ahead of Cleveland. And the Rangers are starting to get hot at the right time. And if this Rangers team gets into the playoffs and they have the 4th highest run differential in the American League at plus 88 entering play today, that they're going to be a super dangerous team come the playoffs. Bruce Bochy is a superb manager. So they've dealt with a lot of injuries and an inconsistent play from the offense, but don't sleep on the Rangers if they make the postseason, but that's not a guarantee. And speaking of the Rangers, they're only 2.5 back in the West. That the Astros have lost. They've lost a couple of games in a row recently. Seattle's is won 4 straight. They're a game back. The Rangers are 2.5 back. And that's good stuff there. In terms of the National League, congratulations to the Philadelphia Phillies on winning the National League East. They're 9 games ahead of the Mets with 17 to play. Now it's just going to be a matter of time before the Phillies officially lock up the division, and the Mets will be faced with having to fend off the San Francisco Giants and the Cincinnati Reds for the last wild card spot in the National League. The Mets are 2 ahead of the Giants. The Mets have a tiebreaker over the Giants on the basis of winning the season series. They do not over the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds won 4 of 6 against the Mets throughout during the season. And you look at the Mets, and we don't know which way is up in terms of the pitching. They have the three young studs all up, and Don McLean, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat all up now. So really hoping to make a push because of the poor performances of Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga. That have derailed the team to the point where you thought things were going to be okay after they came back, but that has not turned out to be the case over there. So I think that's really the puzzle. You also you figure the Brewers are going to be the 1 seed, the Phillies are going to be 2. I think the Dodgers they are there's the NL West race is not over yet. But the Dodgers are 2 ahead of San Diego in the National League West. So it's just a matter of the seeding here. When it comes to it, it looks like the Cubs are going to be the 4, the Padres the 5, and whoever is the 6. But I got to tell you, it's awfully nervous to be a Mets fan right now. It's awfully nervous. And then I wanted to also look at some of the things in college football, because I know it didn't put that in the title, the description, but sure enough, whatnot. I think Ohio State with the win against Texas a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was a superb win by all accounts, measuring sticks. Texas bounced back in a big way. Arch Manning got right in a big way against South Dakota State over the week last weekend. Um, with that, and then Oklahoma wound up beating Michigan as well. But we have some great matchups this weekend in college football. You got Notre Dame taking on Texas A&M. Notre Dame played well in a loss against Miami, so I think Notre Dame should be able to win that game in front of the home fans there. You got a good matchup between Georgia and Tennessee. College game day is going to be in Knoxville, I believe, on Saturday for the big clash there. Um, it's Georgia and Tennessee. That's going to be on ABC at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and I think the Fowler Herb Street crew is calling that game. So you have, how about South Florida? They were able to knock off Central Florida and Florida the last couple of weeks, and the big upset special against Florida. So a huge game in Miami, and the CW network is having that game. So the CW doesn't get that many opportunities to get big games, but sure enough, they have that opportunity on Saturday when those two teams will duke it out in in Miami. So it should be a fun weekend there in say in college football. And then finally, I wanted to congratulate our Aryna Sabalenka and Carlos Alcaraz on dominating efforts in winning their U.S. Open championships. And it looks this Alcaraz Sinner rivalry is superb, and it's real, and it is spectacular. Those two players have won each of the last 8 majors. So between the two of them, so that's going to be a rivalry that's pretty. I think it's locked in for a generation. But Alcaraz to me has been the better of the two. So you've got that, and then Sabalenka, who had a fantastic major season. She went to the finals in the Australian and the French, and then finished. Then was in the loss to the semifinals in Wimbledon. before coming back and winning her second consecutive U.S. Open against an American player. Last year, she beat Jess Pegula, and then this year, she defeated Amanda Amisanova. So to wrap up another major title for her. That's gonna do it for this edition of Hooked on Sports. Thank you so very much for listening, and I'm hoping to get back on the podcast and YouTube waves tomorrow for my week 2 preview show. So until then, have a wonderful night, everybody, and talk to you tomorrow.